Okay, so I've pulled up the Align button after importing the STL model, and I can move forward and back with the scroll button on the mouse. But what I want to do is match my model to this over here. So this green line represents the model as it looks now. Make sure you click the right arch up here. If you click the wrong arch, it comes in upside down. So I'm going to go here approximately to the same number of teeth. So I'm going to hold the shift key and I'm going to left click. So I'm going to go the groove right there on the front of the tooth, the cusp tip, the cusp tip, the cusp tip, and the incisal edge. So I can see the cusp tip, and I'm marking the exact same points on this model as closely as I can to where I marked them on the other. Now I'm going to go to the Align button. It says original data set imported, so I'm going to try 5 and see if 5 will line it up. If it does, then this green outline is going to be the same outline as it is on the X-ray. And it does a fair job. If it doesn't match up, then I'll show you where I would go next, because you can align to model manually. So if I look here, you can now see that this follows this, and this line right here shows you the thickness of the tissue. This molar looks off if you look. So I'm going to say okay. It's pretty close, and this is a nice example because it shows how the thickness of the tissue is. This does look like it's accurately adapted here, so I'm going to scroll back and see how the molar doesn't look like it's quite right there on that one, but if you look here, it looks pretty close. Now if I don't like it, I can go to this button here, adjust model position manually, like that, and it allows me to move this green model. I like to blow it up when I'm going to do that so I can really see what it is and where it's at. And some of that deviation might have just been the CT file not being super clean, but when I look overall, I think the tissue lines up really well, so I'm actually going to leave it and not adjust it at all. So I'm just going to scroll back out of there, and you can just start working on it, doing something else. So in this case, I'm going to take and go to the implant with a plus button and place an implant. Pick the mandible, and I think we were going to do a 4.3 bottom left menu by 8 millimeter long. So we're going to go OK, and you drop it in on the panel. That's the easiest thing to do. You can grab it, drag it to approximately where you want it to be. The little purple circle means I can rotate it. So I'm going to rotate that. If you look at this window, you can see it's not well centered. Okay, so as you can tell, when I started doing this, that little window changed. So then you can do it either way, but I add the tooth. I'm going to pick a medium size left mandibular molar, click OK, and I drop it again on the panel. You don't have to drop it on the panel. But one of the things that you can do, blow it up, you'll see there's 2 little dots. One of these, if you look, makes it bigger. So you can size it up, make it wider than it was initially. Scroll back out, and what's important is the STL model, this one. So if it looks like it lines up here, it's actually going to be correct. So you can drag it where you want it. So from the occlusal, I'm going to drag it here. So I'm going to make it wide enough so it fits in there perfect. Rotate it just like I'm designing a real crown. I'm going to do it this way. So I'm trying to make it as accurate as I can quickly to be at the perfect spot. So I'm going to drag it there, make sure the central fossas line up, like so. So I like that pretty much. It's pretty darn close. So now when I go back to this screen, I can see the little line that comes through. If I look here, you can see that line right there. So this gray line represents where the implant is in relation to the central fossa. So you can see it comes out kind of the mesiobuccal cusp groove. So if I go back and change the angulation of my implant a little bit, I'm going to move it lingual, and you can see I just moved it to the central fossa there. So if you look here, it's now centered mesiodistally, and then if you look here, it's now centered buccolingually, comes out dead center. So now I know that that is the ideal placement for my dental implant to come out right there. Once I've done that, I can go to the guide panel. So I'm going to turn it on. Let's see here, guide fabrication. So if you start off with advanced in the upper right, these panels automatically open, or you can set them to preset like I have mine. So every time the computer opens, it does that. So I want to draw a curve. That's how you fabricate the guide. So I'm going to rotate the model, click draw curve. I'm going to hold the shift key and start at least 2 teeth away. And as I do it, it's going to create a little purple line. And then I have to stop and let go because I have to rotate the model again. And I'm going to go back, coming back up the canine. Alright, then I go to edit curve, and it'll show you all the little points that you created. So I'm going to start dragging these points and creating kind of a smooth contour for where I want to make the guide. So it's not anything that's too fancy. You can make it longer, narrower. You get kind of a feel for what you like. I usually include the occlusal of a tooth behind it just so that it gets it. And you can see those points are reasonable. So there's a point that's hidden somewhere. So I can go to surfaces and turn off the original CT. Now you can see much better where all these little pieces are and parts. So I can kind of tell this goes over here, this goes over here. So it looks like that one goes there. Hard to say how some of these get moved around sometimes, but they do, so you can kind of see. Turning the CT model off really helps. So that will be the outline of the guide right there. We know that all we have to do is go back to our guide panel and then create surgical guide. Drill kit isn't compatible if you want to continue. The drill kit is if you have a particular type of implant size kit that you're using, whether it's a Hassan or a Blue Sky Bio. The kits have different height offsets for the length of the drill, so it'll do both diameter as well as width. Not sure why this window popped up. So it's fabricating, and when it comes back, it's going to show you what it's going to look like right there. And then down here in this bottom right window where it says text tool, you can go in and type in what you want. So for example, I would have Dr. X and then the last name of the patient, and we're going to emboss, which is apply on top of, not go in onto this actual surgical guide so that it's visible to see. So fabricating the guide takes 30 seconds or so, and you can go in and do a lot with it. So there's the guide itself, shows you what it's going to look like. Now this is a surface, that's a surface, that's a surface. You can turn them on and off however you'd like to do that. So that's what it would actually look like right now. So I'm going to type in Dr. X, and then I'm just going to say Smith as the patient. Now it just puts it on the center of the screen, so what you do is you manipulate the model till it's where you want it to be. Now you can hold both left and right buttons to move the model around like this. Left rotates, right moves it forward or back. So I'm going to move it down, drag it over, and then as I scroll in, you can see that it looks like it appears smaller. So I like to kind of find a flat area if I can, and then apply text. It looks very clear if it's got a good graphics card, so that's not bad. It's not very pixelated, but it will print very clear, so don't worry about that. So now when you want to use this, you can see what's going to happen. You can click turn that off. There's the surgical guide. Those two pieces stay there, but they do not print, so don't worry about that. So you go back to your guide panel and you click Save Surgical Guide, and it will tell you that you will spend 1 to do that. If you spend that 1, then it will save it as an STL file, and you take the STL file to the printer. That's how you make a surgical guide in Blue Sky Bio.